Every second of your journey through the night will be documented by this equipment and the various sensors that you'll be wearing.
Well, I hope I'm going to sleep for you.
Well, I think you will, because it's 8 hours different from London time. It's about 3 a.m. your time, so you should fall asleep right away. You look a little tired. You might wake up a little early, but I think you'll sleep pretty well.
Good.
So let's go and see where you'll be doing
Okay.
it. It's in the next room.
Well, I hope you're going to explain to me about jet lag after I've had some sleep.
Bill Dement and his team pioneered the procedures I was about to undergo. We were to discover, as he did 30 years ago, how to recognize a dreaming brain.
This is our technician, Doug Yost, and he'll be attaching the electrodes to your scalp and around your eyes and on your chin. We'll be recording brain waves through the night, eye movements through the night, and muscle activity through the night. The sleeping brain is an active brain, and it can fail to regulate your breathing or your heart rate, and that can only be detected when you're asleep. Now, I'm assuming you're a very healthy sleeper, and we won't find a serious sleep disorder, but if we do, well, I'll send you a bill.
Sensitive electrodes were going to be used to record my brain's internal activity. Once they're glued on, they can be used to monitor minute changes in the flow of electrical currents, reflecting the activity of nerve cells in the cortex below. They'll provide an electrical fingerprint of my sleeping brain. I wondered if I would sleep well in these strange conditions, and what I might dream about that night.
Okay, just do what comes naturally, and don't worry about a thing. And you'll have a very good sleep, I'm sure. And I'll see you in the morning.
Okay, thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
A good night's sleep produces more than 300 yards of paper. Sleep seems to be a highly organized process and can be divided into distinct stages that always occur in the same order. The next morning, I asked Bill what had happened to me as I went through the night.
Well, this is the beginning. This is where, they say lights out. And I'm noticing a slight change in the brainwave patterns, a little bit of slow activities coming in. So this is extremely rapid sleep onset. And I think that attests to the fact that you're tired and
You
had
told me
jet lag.
I look tired.
Yeah, so it's like you just were up on a high diving board and just jumped in and went right to sleep. It's quite and by this time, wow, you're asleep at this point. So that is falling asleep after lights out in 2.5 minutes. I mean, that is really amazing. So in that moment, you go from wake to sleep, you go from seeing to being blind, you go from hearing to being deaf. I think it's the most remarkable change in the entire neurobehavioral repertoire of human beings. And we also feel very certain it's an active process, so that your brain is actively disengaging from the environment, and then these changes in the brainwave patterns reflect that process. And in fact, I was going to ask you how old you are, because this amount of high amplitude slow activity either means you're very sleep deprived or you're very young.
Well, let's say I'm very young.
Okay.
Recently, several pilots came straight from their international flights to sleep in this laboratory and in similar labs around the world. And the researchers found that what's true for cave dwellers and shift workers is indeed true for everyone. Our brain has a 25-hour clock. That's why it's easier to lengthen our day by going from east to west and to go to sleep later than normal. But why do we need to sleep at all? A clue came with Dement's discovery that sleep itself is punctuated by strange episodes of activity, the times when we dream.
Here it is, the beginning of the first rapid eye movement period, the beginning of REM sleep, a total change in state of view of the organism. And here's a burst of rapid eye movements. This means your eyes are moving back and forth. But notice the muscle activity is also completely suppressed, and this means that your brain is active, you're dreaming, and your body is completely paralyzed by active inhibition of alpha motor neurons. And here, Wes came in and woke you up after about 5 minutes of REM sleep.
Colin, can you tell us what you're dreaming? Colin, do you remember your dream?
Yeah. Yes. I was on an aeroplane, and there was an earthquake. And the airplane was bouncing up and down. And I remember trying to ask the steward why the plane was moving when it should only be the ground. The ground moving. Oh.
Do you remember anything else?
No.
Okay, you can go back to sleep now.
Thank you.
These images show hours of sleep compressed into a few seconds. Episodes of dream activity sweep across the brain every 90 minutes, like waves on a beach. Almost all mammals have bouts of REM sleep, which suggests that they also dream. Whatever it's for, dream sleep evolved with the enlarged cortex of the first mammals. Surely it must be important for brain function. We now know what happens to the brain during REM sleep, and it helps us to understand how dreams are generated. Giant nerve cells in the lower brain fire bursts of impulses. This electrical activity travels to areas of the cortex that are normally involved in movement and vision. These signals affect the brain in the same way as real events in the outside world. The brain has to account for these strange visions, so the frontal cortex acts as a storyteller, trying to make sense of them. The story it tells is the dream. But why do we spend so much time asleep and dreaming? The world is a dangerous place, and the law of the jungle applies. Animals obey it nearly all the time, except when they close their eyes and sleep. During dream sleep, we become particularly vulnerable. Our brains remain active, but the messages to the muscles are damped. The reception of information from the senses nearly cut off. To give up all defenses in such a world seems ridiculous, so there must be a trade-off. The risks must be exceeded by the benefits. Benefits that might flow from the strange world of dreams. To the Greeks, sleep and death were rival brothers, gods of the underworld. In the imagination of artists and seers, dreams were foretastes of death and offered visions of the future. To psychoanalysts, a stage on which our wildest fantasies could be enacted. To others, a time of creative thought. Vienna, Austria, 1865. The chemist August Kekulé was faced with a scientific problem, determining the structure of the compound benzene. Kekulé knew that benzene contained 6 carbon atoms, but how were they arranged? For years, he worked on the problem. But one night he dreamed of snakes, 6 of them. They writhed and twirled through his fantasy. Then each snake bit the tail of the snake ahead of him, and they formed a circle. When Kekulé awoke, he had the answer. The carbons, like the snakes, were joined one to another. Benzene was shaped like a ring. Is dreaming mainly a way to help us solve problems? Why, I wondered, did I dream of an earthquake in an aircraft?